Today we have another cool mechanical keyboard build. Let me know how you feel about more builds, by the way. Been trying to get more in to mix it up a bit. Anyway, here we have the Austere by newcomer IveryBoards. This was a very limited run of, I believe, 20 units and was done in a black and a grey version, in which we have both today. And no, it didn't come with these sweet TX bags, the owners just happened to have them. The TGR Alice is an immensely popular keyboard and difficult to come by, so why not make your own? And that's what the Austere is based on, using the same PCB and therefore layout, and we've seen a bunch of other people doing this with some variations as well. The plate files are publicly available, and yes, he did get permission by the designer to go ahead with this, so yeah, all good. Also, I've never built an Alice before, so I don't really know the differences other than the external ones. Anyway, let's take them apart to have a closer look. It uses hex screws to hold the case together, and Phillips head screws to hold the plate in. And as with many customs, this is a top mount keyboard, so rather than having the mounting plates on the bottom of the case, which can create an uneven experience, with the keys around those points being harsher, having the plate screwed to the top piece allows for a more uniform experience and also slightly softer experience. All of these parts are made from aluminium. Here's the top piece, beautifully finished inside and out. The inside in particular is very clean. So yeah, on the outside we have all the case screws and we have these holes to help with positioning. The bottom piece carries most of the weight and is quite simple. There's no additional brass weight or engraving or anything, just nice and simple. The plate is 1.5mm thick. Again, finish is smooth, even and clean. As said before, it is using the TGR Alice PCB. Looks like it supports through-hole LEDs if you're into that, and of course 5-pin key switches. Stabs are always boring, so I'll skip that. I'm using GMK screw-ins on one, and KBD fans gold-plated screw-ins in the other. Alrighty, for the first board we have Holy Panda key switches. We'll talk more in depth about them later, but these are the ones from Dropped and are factory lubed, which had mixed results. Comes in a cool box though. So it has a Halo True stem and then Panda housing, polycarb on top, nylon on the bottom, and yeah, you can see with this particular one there's lube on one side but not so much on the other, and it just varies from switch to switch, and that's why there was a whole lot of criticism and stuff. They go in pretty tight into the plate, and since they don't have the plastic legs, I just decided to put all of them in first, and then it's just a matter of soldering them in place. And then for the second board we have T1s that are lubed up nicely and is another comparable tactile key switch. Keycaps are courtesy of old mate Jono, and they're in these awesome JTK trays. Pretty neat, especially if you have a bunch of these. The side profile is so aesthetically pleasing. Unfortunately, you'd need several $100 to do that, but yeah. Depending on what kits you have, you may need 3 of them, so it can get pretty pricey. And these ones in particular don't fit SA keycaps and probably whatever new toll profile comes out. And here they are, absolute stunners as you'd expect from a board based on the Alice. It's a striking layout and gives the keyboard so much character and in turn flows onto how the keyboard is shaped around it. There are some slight differences between the Austere and the Alice. The side bezels are larger, which I think looks quite nice in evening out to be more like the top and bottom. And at the front it's pointy rather than straightened out, and I think it flows really nicely from side to side. And that's probably the main physical difference between the two at first sight, besides the missing TGR logo. There's a nice chamfer that goes all the way around, pretty standard. The side is very koala-esque with a curved bottom edge, and that also allows you to more easily pick up the keyboard, and the bottom is just completely plain. So overall, as an alternate case, it's very simple in design, but done very cleanly and it looks beautiful. No drastic changes, and of course you can't stray too far as it's using the exact same layout. The quality is there, solid, hefty aluminium. On these two units, the anodization is very nice. For the black one, the finish is very even and the two halves match very closely, if not perfectly, but it is smoother than the grey one and does pick up oils a bit more. The grey one on the other hand has a rougher finish, like a coarser or grainier feel. It's not rough by any means, just not as smooth and slippery as the black one, and I prefer it as it has that softer feel. But visually again, very even finish, however the two halves don't match as well as the black one, so at the right angles and lighting the top does look a tad darker. Anyway, this keyboard is more about the layout. It's a split layout, but the keyboard is in one piece, and the gap is quite small, basically like a 1U gap. And the middle portion of the keys angles inwards, and we've seen this with many ergonomic boards in the past. So basically on a normal keyboard, our arms angle inwards, and then we have to angle our wrists outwards. Whereas this allows you to keep that natural arm and wrist positioning. I haven't used it long enough to notice any ergonomic and health benefits, but it makes sense. The good thing about this is that it's a pretty mild approach and is quite easy to get used to. The only thing with splits though is that everyone types a bit differently, and this is very apparent with the B and Y keys. Fortunately, by default there's 2 B keys and you can later program that, but there's only 1 Y key, and I'm one of those people who press Y with the left hand. But other than that, you can get typing up to speed on this in no time. Functionally, it's quite close to a 6% keyboard, but more like the size of a 10 keyless, so there's no dedicated arrow keys, which I personally struggle with, and no function row on top, which I'm fine with. On the bottom row, we have our control keys looking quite lonely, but they're in the right spot, so like for an FPS game with your fingers on WASD, left control is in perfect positioning, and as for the right control, I've never really used that, so yeah. There are some slight variances with the layout, so split backspace, split right shift, step caps lock, and the left bottom row has these 2 setups. So the layout, I like it. It takes time to grow into it, but it's not too foreign. The inward angle does ease up the wrists a bit, which may be more noticeable over time, and it's just a fancier and cooler looking 60%-ish keyboard, and if I like 60%, then I'd love this even more. Alright, now to the key switches. These are 2 pretty hyped and kinda controversial in their own ways, and these are both strong tactile key switches in the market. And they both feel amazing. The Holy Pandas sliders are lubed from the factory, albeit inconsistently. They're still pretty scratchy, but the tactile bump does help mask that a bit, and it is a strong bump. If you've only felt Cherry MX Browns before, these are seriously several levels above those. The bump is very close to the top with close to no pre-travel. And usually when you have loop switches, the bottom out would be softer, but since it's only on the sliders, the bottom out is still pretty harsh, especially in comparison to the loop T1s, which were lubed by questionable builds. Again, strong tactile bump right near the top. The lube job is better here, so they are smoother, which also rounds out the bump slightly, and the bottom out is softer and more pleasant for me personally. Not a straight comparison between the 2 switches since the T1s are modified, so they do sound very different. The bump is very similar though, but the bottom out feel is completely different. So yeah, one loud one and one muted one. Let me know what you think and what you would prefer to use. I love them both in their own ways. The Holy Panda one feels sharp and the tactility really pierces through, whereas the T1 board is a bit more relaxing and pleasant. I didn't really go in depth as there are some really good reviews on these switches which I'll link in the description, but basically very tactile and very satisfying. As for the stabs, pre-retool GMK screw-ins are solid, especially when modded. The KBD fans gold plated ones are pretty good as well. Keep in mind they are much cheaper, but there is still that hint of rattle. Okay, so overall I really enjoyed building these boards. As said before, I haven't built the TGR Alice. I've seen them in real life, but yeah, no prolonged experiences. The layout is really cool, and while it's not really for me, as I prefer more keys, a lot of people love it. Ergonomically, in theory, it should be better for your wrists, but for me, it just looks really cool and has that strong character to it. Like, it may look very foreign, but it really isn't in terms of usability, and that's what I love about it. This is IveryBoards' first keyboard, and it's been a real solid introduction. The quality is right up there. Fit and finish, I have nothing bad to say about it, and it's a clean and simple take on the Alice, and he's done a great job in doing that.